first question here in the second row. Let's go on the left side with Phil first.
Hey, Steve. Phil Barber, Santa Rosa Press, Democrat. There have been times when Kevin was ball dominant in this postseason and his shots didn't always go in and you lost games and everybody was talking about that Kevin's got the ball too much. And there's times like last night when, you know, he's a godsend for you guys in that regard. What's the balance you try to strike there? And, you know, when does it work and when does it not, other than shots just going in?
Yeah, it's a fine line, isn't it? The bottom line is in the playoffs, the game gets much more difficult for everybody. It's just harder to get a shot off. And you can see that across the board on both teams. And as you go through the playoffs, you see different teams, different matchups. Everyone poses a different threat. And there are just a handful of guys in the NBA who can kind of get their shot whenever they want. And Kevin happens to be one, and he happens to be 6'11" with long arms. You know, it's almost unfair what he can do. But yeah, there's you know, there have been moments where, you know, everybody was talking about how our offense had ground to a halt. Well, that's because of good defense generally. It's not because we're not trying to move the ball. But I think what he's done a great job of in this series is attacking quickly. You know, he's not holding the ball for long. He's catching and making a decision and putting the defense on its heels. And he's been brilliant, obviously.
Second row again.
Trista Crick, USA Today Sports. Steve, I'm not sure if you saw the news on Brian Colangelo that he'll resign. As a former front office staff member, I'm curious as to your thoughts on how to use social media in that position, knowing that it can be great for a career and it can also really harm one, as we've seen.
Well, I won't comment on that situation in particular, but I learned pretty quickly. You know, I used to be in television and tweeted all the time, and I learned pretty quickly as a coach I'm better off just retweeting interesting articles that I see and then leaving everything else to someone else. And I've made a couple mistakes. You know, it's a dangerous game. You know, even, you know, something seemingly innocuous you tweet, and all of a sudden that comes back to haunt you. I think years ago when I was working at TNT, I tweeted something about, you know, if I could have one player on the road for a Game 7, it would be LeBron James. You think any Cavs fans might have reminded me of that tweet, you know, several years afterwards? So, yeah, I think in general, when you're in this position, it's best to avoid that stuff as best you can.
And tell your loved ones to keep burner accounts to a minimum as well.
That was your comment, not mine.
Alvaro in the back.
Alvaro Martini, ESPN. With your background as a shooter, and we've also seen you mic'd up, talk to Steph when he's not having great shooting games. When the shots don't fall or the attention's too much on him, as a shooter's whisperer that you are, how do you manage that process?
Well, as a coach, you just always want to encourage your guys. Steph doesn't need a lot of encouragement. I mean, he has built a mindset for himself that has gotten him to where he is, which is he's going to shoot and he's never going to stop. That's why he's able to make the shot like he did last night, which I thought was, you know, one of the two biggest shots of the game. His and then Kevin's that followed. Those were the two biggest shots of the game. And that's a real skill and a test of will to be able to be, you know, 0 for 10 or whatever and make a huge shot. So Steph doesn't need much encouragement, but every once in a while I might offer a little bit. But he's got the right mindset, which is you just keep going, you keep shooting.
Tim in the back row.
Tim Reynolds with the Associated Press. Steve, you guys have made winning look so easy at times, and obviously it's not, but you guys have made it look that way over these 4 years. The route that you had to take this year, not being the 1 seed, you know, slumping a little bit toward the end. I mean, Steph was hurt, sure, but, you know, it wasn't this wasn't the smoothest road
right.
for you guys. In some ways, does it make you appreciate what you guys have done almost more, the fact that you have shown a resiliency that you really weren't called upon to show much the first 3 years of this run?
Well, yeah, I mean, what I've kind of said this year quite often is that every season is very different. Every journey is a new one each season, and yet the cumulative effect on multiple journeys adds up, and we have felt that this year. I think it's been our most inconsistent season. It's been our most difficult season, but our guys sensed the finish line, and they turned it on right from the beginning of the playoffs defensively, and that's been what's been key, I think, to get us to this point where we're on the cusp. Our defense has been fantastic through however many playoff games we've played. And so that's why we're here. But, now that we are one game away, we'd like to eliminate that inconsistency and put forth our best effort, our best game tomorrow. And that's the plan.
Last two on the left, and then Connor here.
Steve Dieter, Kurtenbach, Bay Area News Group. I know there's one game left and your focus is on game 4, but perspective-wise, this could be the last time these two teams meet in the NBA Finals, 4 straight years. How do you view this rivalry? Has it brought out the best in both teams? How much do you focus on the Cavs each and every offseason? What do you think? How do you put it in perspective?
Well, that's really a question I'd rather answer after the series is over. It's hard to go into a retrospective when you're right in the fray still. So if you don't mind, I'll pass on that question, and when the series is over, I'd be happy to answer it.
Connor, last one.
Steve, Connor Letourneau, San Francisco Chronicle. Just as a fan of the NBA, what has it been like for you for the past 2 years, having a front row seat to see two of the best scorers in NBA history, and LeBron and KD going head-to-head on the biggest stage?
It really is shocking, and when you see the talent. And, I was telling our staff after the game last night, I played in 5 finals. I don't think I ever saw anybody make a 30-foot shot in the middle of the game, much less 4 of them, which KD did last night, I believe, and which Steph did multiple times the game before, which LeBron did multiple times in game 1. The talent level right now, I think, is at an all-time high in the league. It's very different. You don't have the aircraft carriers. You don't have Shaq and Patrick Ewing and Hakeem. But the skill level on the perimeter is so shocking. And sometimes I try to picture myself playing in the finals now. And 20 years ago, I survived. It was tough, but I survived, and I could find guys to guard. I can only imagine right now. LeBron would be pointing right at me, saying, "Come on up. We're gonna set a screen with you." And it's gotten so tough. You have to have so much versatility and size and speed and strength to be able to survive on the floor because of this incredible skill level, because these guys can make shots from 30, 35 feet without blinking. And now you got to go out there and pick them up, and now they're driving by you, and they got 4 3-point shooters in many times, or in many cases, but usually at least 2 3-point shooters. Sometimes 3 or 4 surrounding them. So guarding and playing defense today is the most difficult it's ever been.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.